welcome to another episode of On the Line. My name is Anthony Gangi, and my co-host today is going to be Connie Alleyne, and we're going to be discussing taking accountability at the workplace. It's a very tough topic to discuss. Me and Connie explored it on the Tier Talk channel, but we figure we could also provide some value on the Line for Guardian RFID. Connie, how's everything? How's the book coming?
Everything's good. The book is coming along. Some very interesting opportunities are presenting themselves. And so, I can't do anything but roll with it. So I'm good.
Yeah. And Connie, obviously I got mine on the market now. We're doing good. Well, good feedback. I'm happy. Just can't wait to, the feedback's what matters the most. I want to make sure that the book is doing what I want it to do, which is just provide the information for both rookies and senior staff. So, I know we don't usually do this much, but bravo to both of us.
Yes.
I think we're doing something good for the profession. Now, Connie, we touched on this topic on our channel, on the Tier Talk channel. And, when it comes to accountability and responsibility, the first thing I think about is, okay, so in this profession, we do demand people who are going to step up. So we do want professionals with a high level of integrity, right? Now, with that said, you do want them to step up for the right reasons. So if I make a mistake, I'm not stepping up because I'm afraid of the consequences. I'm not stepping up because I'm afraid I'm going to be discovered. I'm stepping up because it's the right thing to do. I made a mistake. It's the right thing to do. But the environment also has to allow those individuals the opportunity to step up. And what I mean by that is, do we have an environment that the individuals can trust? And that's where it comes down to leadership. If you have leadership that is strictly CYA, cover their own ass, quick to discipline, then you're going to find out that you can't be trusted. And therefore, if frontline can't trust you because they feel that when they go to tell you something, you as a supervisor, not even a leader, is going to quickly cover your own ass or quickly go to discipline without looking for maybe the chance to cultivate, grow, but instead you rather just separate yourself from the team, the employee is not going to trust you enough to admit that they made a mistake. And therefore you wind up having a facility that just covers their mistakes as opposed to letting management know. What's your thoughts on that trust?
So, certainly we want to have an environment that's cultivating trust. We want an environment that, people feel comfortable to come forward and admit that they've made a mistake, and I think in order for us to get there, we do have to establish an environment where it's not about blame, but it's about the partnership, right? Because if you make a mistake, you grow, I grow, hopefully we all learn from that mistake, as opposed to someone discovering the mistake after the fact and then the outcome being even worse than what we thought it would have been if we would have identified it early on and addressed it head on.
Yeah, and it's great that you mentioned outcome, because as a good leader, sometimes we're faced with pressures that may limit our chance to educate. And therefore, what happens here, an employee makes a mistake, and because maybe there's a time pressure, or maybe there is just pressure from management to, showcase discipline, because sometimes that happens as well. You're not put in a position where you can be effective. You're not put in a position where you can have an environment that promotes accountability, because again, with accountability comes responsibility. And with responsibility comes the first step of being a good leader yourself. So I want management to know that sometimes they don't realize, but when you're in charge of those direct supervisors, right? And those direct supervisors oversee the actions of their employees. And let's say they have good employees, and yes, they have bad employees. When you have those good employees, you do want to promote honesty. You want to promote a level of integrity, and you want them to come up and admit when they make a concern. Now, if you have an environment that discourages that, those good employees start not trusting you, and they start hiding their mistakes. And in corrections, hiding mistakes could definitely fall into violations of safety and security. So as much as I want to put the onus on employees for stepping up and doing the right thing, we also at a management level should do whatever we can not to discourage them from doing the right thing, which means that when management applies pressure to those frontline supervisors to produce, sometimes they don't realize that pressure could inadvertently affect the front line when they make a mistake. because now management doesn't have time to cultivate, doesn't have time to educate. And then because they're faced with pressure, they do what most managers tend to do: cover their ass. Let me just cover my ass. Let me write this discipline and move forward with it. But Connie, if you have certain pressures in the environment that hinder the opportunity for, let's say, good employees to, do the right thing, do you wind up having a facility that probably has tons of dangers in it because at this point employees are just hiding their mistakes?
Absolutely. I mean, so certainly when we are in this environment where it's very pressure filled, we will see those times where, we just don't have the time to allow this to be a learning moment, right? Or a teaching moment. But I also feel that we have to be intentional if that's what we want it to be. So if we want it to be a learning environment, even if in the moment we've got the pressure of time, we've got the pressure of the outcome, we need to just get it done, and we don't necessarily have the time, I think we should circle back to those individuals to make sure that they're aware, because I feel like when we don't fill that knowledge gap, that's a mistake that's going to happen again. And that's not necessarily what we want, right? We would like for individuals, when they are empowered to make decisions, to be able to be as effective as possible. And sometimes that does require the manager to serve as that person who's going to be developing their staff. Now, certainly we don't want the environment to be one that, people are hiding, right? Because then what happens, right? When we start to uncover the things that people are hiding, that could have some very significant implications, right? You and I talked a little bit earlier, and I was talking about, like, in a medical situation, if someone has hidden like a medical mistake, whether it's the wrong dosage, it's the wrong medication, the wrong treatment, whatever that is, that could be a life or death situation. There's situations where people lose things in the facility and they don't say anything. They're searching for it. They're hoping to find it because they don't want to cause a lockdown. Our reality, though, is the sooner you let someone know that you've lost something, the sooner we can then do what we need to do from a safety and security perspective to make sure that we're all safe. And so, for me, it's really one of those situations where, regardless of the pressures that we might be feeling, I think we want to be able to truly empower the frontline staff to make decisions the best way that they can, but also if they did mess up, they did make a mistake, to feel comfortable to say, hey, I think I might have messed up. Or even if it's just pure ownership, hey, listen, I messed up. I went back and read the policy. This is what it said I should have did, but this is what I did in the moment. Like, those are the ways that we can support the learning and growing process, and our response to them is really what starts to help us build trust. Like, you came to me, and even if there may be a negative consequence, we could have an open conversation about it. And you could know that the consequence isn't coming from a place of cover my butt, but it's coming from a place as, based on this particular issue and the outcome, here is the prescribed consequence, right? But I'm going to support you in knowing how to do this moving forward. There's got to be some way that I think management takes ownership for some of the deficits some of the staff may have.
Yeah, because I think one thing is that in an environment like this, you could expect, as I said, people that come in with high level of integrity, and we could expect that. But 9 times out of 10, we also need to do what we can to continue that. And be careful of the stuff that we put in play, or the people we put in positions who discourage that integrity. And they may not realize that they're doing it, though. That's the funny thing. They may not realize that their need to protect themselves, to remove themselves from the team. Because even if I make a mistake as a front line, if I feel that we are part of a team, I know that in the end, I didn't make that mistake alone. At the end, people are going to come help me make sure I don't make it again. I mean, that's the key too. That's part of that growth. Now, for leaders that want accountability, mistakes are not the time to push your employee away, but rather the time to bring the employee back in. A lot of times, bad supervisors will see a mistake and then use that as a reason to push the employee, and then they take kind of, well, that wasn't me. Whoa, you can't do that as a supervisor. You're taking responsibility of the actions of the employees you supervise. So with that said, to me, mistakes bring a good opportunity to educate. So why are you pushing the person away when you should be bringing the person in? Correct, Connie?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, sometimes the pushing away is, people trying to kind of shield themselves from any of the backlash or any of the consequence that might be falling. But I feel like the mark of a good leader is that, you know what, I won't just let it all fall on you. If you made a mistake, I think that part of that leadership accountability is saying, I didn't do something to make sure that you knew how to do this. Whether it was I wasn't on top of the training records, there's some way that we take ownership for our team. And, it is also showing like we're all in this together. I will not let you walk through this situation alone, because there were some things I could have done to help us avoid this. And I think that's when, you have staff who are looking and who are like, oh, you see how they handle that? Because that also gets around. When staff can say, nah, listen, they're not going to let you go down for that on your own. I think that says a lot as far as like belonging. It translates beyond, yeah, we went through the academy together, we're all brothers. This is like, here comes consequences, and you guys didn't leave me alone. Like, you guys are there to really be of support to me. And I think that makes all the difference.
Yeah, again, we're talking about mistakes. We're not talking about negligence or criminal acts. Obviously, no leader should be covering for those. That is just literally, there's going to be a discipline behind that. And, at that point, that person already separated themselves from the team. The fact that you're negligent means you don't care about you and your people. Criminal, same thing. You're doing something criminal, you don't care about you and your people. One other thing, when it comes to the potential for people to be the next supervisor, accountability is a big part of that, because to me, I know people that have become great supervisors right from the get-go on the front line. They admitted to making mistakes and they stepped up. They didn't wait for, and by the way, the reason wasn't fear that they would get caught or be discovered or the consequences. They did it because this was in them. Now you have someone that comes into the profession with this high level of integrity, right? And then you start to promote an environment that discourages that. So you get a supervisor who, as a front line, they made a lot of mistakes. Then when they become a supervisor, we have no idea who we promoted. This could be a person with a closet full of mistakes. But again, we could have done our part to discourage that person from admitting they made a mistake. So again, guys, there is onus on the individual. I'm not minimizing that. But because of the security, the safety and security of our profession, we also have to do whatever we can to promote that level of integrity and make sure we're not discouraging. I don't expect people, and again, because we deal with human behavior, I don't expect people to admit they made a mistake in an environment that they can give two shits about, in an environment that they cannot trust, okay? But I do expect people in our position to admit they made a mistake when they're surrounded by people that care, that look to elevate, and obviously, more important, that look to help you grow. Now, if you see that as just the opposite, then the end of the day is you are discouraging accountability, personal growth. I mean, a whole list of things that can squash the potential for a great leader in the future. I mean, would you agree to that, Connie?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do have to just, leave the door open. I think to people coming forward and just being able to admit it. Like, I think that we are in a space where the culture doesn't necessarily support that, right? And so how do we begin to change the tide? How do we begin to shift the tide? And I mean, for that person who's coming in, who's making mistakes, like, we know that that's the person that's working. That's the person that's trying new things. I don't want to say necessarily the person's coming in and they're just like, policies be damned. That's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking this person's they're trying to troubleshoot. They're on the go, they're working their unit, they're working whatever area they're in, and they're trying to make things happen the best way that they know how. And I feel like that is the person who like, they're engaged in the environment. Like, that's not the person who's like off on the side, that's not really doing much work. And I feel like those are the people who want to see things go right. They want today to be a good day. I want the shift to go well. I don't want there to be no issues today. And so they're doing these things and they're making these decisions. And I feel like when we discipline those people who make those mistakes, we ultimately not only discourage them coming forward, but we also sort of start to discourage that whatever's in them that pushes them to take the initiative. So I think we have to be very careful with the way we withdraw support when people are making mistakes, as opposed to trying to encourage that behavior of being involved, of taking the initiative and not being afraid to do that. Because I don't know that we necessarily support that kind of taking of initiative, right? It's like, okay, we operate from this space of status quo. And so when we do that though, and you've got new people coming in who they've got a fresh set of eyes, I think we miss out on the options, the potential that they bring in, because they are excited about the job and they are looking to make a difference.
Yeah, and you know what, Connie, you're touching on it. I mean, when managers look to see who made the mistake and get an understanding of why, they really need to look and understand the person making the mistake. I mean, you could have a person who has a perfect history, makes one mistake. Should they be treated the same way as someone who is negligent all the time and, who just doesn't care? So I really do think as a manager or as a leader, you need to look at the person making the mistake and get an understanding of why that mistake happened before you cast judgment. And that really comes from an understanding of why that person made the choice they made, but also an understanding of the history of that person. Again, making one mistake my whole career, and I'm being held accountable as if I made, 30 mistakes in 1 year. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's quick for management to generalize discipline because they're so concerned that they're looking for equal treatment. I'm going to tell you something, guys. Equal treatment is not about somebody making 30 mistakes and this person making one and then being treated, as the same collective punishment, you will. That's not equal treatment, because at that point they tend to look at the outcome, but not really look at the person that may have produced a negative outcome. Equal treatment is, this person makes one mistake, this person makes 30, this person remove them. This person's all the way up here. This person down here needs a fair chance. Equal treatment is now not based on these two parties, but based on what we need to do with him or her. Give him a fair chance, educate, see what the concern is, and in the end, look to build like you did with the person that made 30 mistakes. And at this point, I'm sorry, we tried enough, you're done. But this person only made one. Why are we throwing them out? This person still has a lot of potential. We just need to know what the concern is. Hey, Connie, anything you want to say in closing?
I just want to say, listen, we have a way of disincentivizing the behaviors we want to see. And, I would like to just make sure that as managers, we're mindful of the way we respond to the workforce whenever there's an issue. And I think certainly not generalizing the way we respond, will give a more personal touch to the individual who actually made the mistake. And I think every opportunity that we have to teach and to develop, we need to take it. I get it. We've got time constraints. I get it. This job is highly scrutinized. It's highly political. It's all those things. But we can't forget that we're in the business of people.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, obviously we all deal with pressures, but in the end, good leaders don't fold to the pressure when it comes to taking care of their people. The people will come first. And if you want people to take accountability, the first thing I'm going to say is, as a frontline person, do you care for me? And can I trust you? That all runs parallel. I thought it was a great dialogue. Again, guys, if you get a chance, please subscribe to this channel. It's Guardian RFID's channel, On the Line. Always more content. I believe they come out, at least from our stuff, every Friday. But I also think they release content throughout the week related just to some good stuff from Stephen Maynard, actually. He gives out a lot of good tips as well. So this channel's loaded with great advice for those in corrections. As always, guys, again, the show is On the Line. Please stay safe.